Hello and welcome to the Ars Electronica Center. Welcome again to Ars Electronica Home Delivery. In our exhibition about artificial intelligence and music, from where we are actually streaming every Friday our concerts, we do not only have a lot of computers and high-tech equipment, we actually do also have some really old mechanical musical instruments, reconstructions, but also originals, some of them dating back to the time of the composer of this evening, to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. This one, for example, is a very simple hurdy-gurdy, where you can mechanically just play your music. And what I really like when I look at it, see how the music is stored on this disc, almost like a CD. It's already a kind of digital storage. And it reminds me actually very much to the program that we are bringing today, because we are bringing something from the Magical Flute by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And in the Magical Flute, you know, there is this little magic carillon that helps Papageno to find his Papagena. And I think it's very interesting that when we talk about Mozart, when we think about Mozart, rarely we recognize that actually the time when he wrote and composed this opera was the time when the steam engine was really getting very successful. So basically, we can really say Mozart is a child of the Industrial Revolution, and maybe this conflict between the Königin der Nacht and Sarastro is also something like already a vision of a conflict that would come, a major conflict, a major change of times that was driven by this new instruments, this new technology, the steam engine, and everything to come. And actually these wonderful instruments, if you like this kind of, there is a museum just 40 minutes north of Linz. They have a whole collection of these wonderful instruments. You should really go there. But before I talk too much about my favorite old music machines, I would like to introduce the guest musicians of this evening. And again, I'm very, very grateful that Maki Namekawa and Dennis Russell Davies are taking the time to bring the program of this evening. It's Magical Flute, as I already announced, and we are not playing the 2.5 hours. It's just an excerpt, of course. They will start with the finale of the second set of the opera, and then we will have two special guests, super professional experts for Mozart and opera, and then we will play some other pieces from the opera. But now I've been talking already too much again. Thanks for listening into our program. Please enjoy the evening. Please enjoy the music. what a grande finale of usually 2.5 hours of opera, and how wonderful it is all is condensed in this last 30 minutes. And what I forgot to mention before, sorry very much for this, of course, the transcription, the arrangement, but Dennis will say more about this later. For this, for piano, four hands, was made by Alexander Zemlinsky, and Dennis will talk a little bit later about this also very important composer. But now it's time for our guests, our live guests, and Dennis, I hand over to you to introduce them, please.
I'm delighted that Olivier Tambosi, stage director, and Christiana Berziger, sopran, both of them, we've done many theater productions together. We did a wonderful Magic Flute together. Christiana was a marvelous Pamina, and I'm so delighted that they're here. I want to make sure that we have them orally, so if they speak to us now, they don't hear us and we don't hear them.
The usual
but this
problem.
is normal for us. Now, are you there, Olivier? Okay. Now you're there. Now you're there. We hear you.
We hear you.
We hear you. Are you there?
So I don't know if you can hear me. I hear nothing. I heard the concert. It was wonderful.
I hear
now
you.
I see you're talking, but I don't hear anything.
Ah.
We hear you, so they don't hear us.
Well, that's already something. Halfway it's working.
We're already halfway there.
Now I hear something.
Now you hear something?
Cool. The guys found the right
Did you
fader.
hear some music before? Do you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Great.
Now I want to hear
Bravo.
Christiana. I want to hear Christiana. Are you there? Christiana?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this wonderful gift.
Well, I just said I had done many productions of the Magic Flute, and my two favorite productions were in Linz at the opera. One with the one that I'm talking about now, of course, is in 2003 with Christiana and Olivier. We did a wonderful production to commemorate 200 years of the Linz Theater. And it was an unforgettable experience, and I'm so delighted you could join us tonight.
Yeah. Wonderful to hear that Mozart doesn't even need our production. It doesn't even need the orchestra. It doesn't need the singers. It's so amazing. It just needs the 20 fingers and you too. That's fantastic. Of course, this is you, the both of you, but this is also a special quality that Mozart has. I think no other composer in opera, in the field of opera, can have this, that it's such a theater music, and at the same time, it's absolute music. You don't need anything, just your two ears to listen to. It's amazing.
There was always, Olivier, there's a dispute as to what is the greatest music Mozart ever composed. The finale to the second act of Figaro or the fourth act of Figaro. But I think the finale of the second act of Magic Flute really has to be in the argument. It's just an extraordinary piece of music.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I discovered this only when I listened the first time to your recording of this. This is not, I really mean this very honestly. For me, always Figaro was first, and then Idomeneo, Don Giovanni, and the Magic Flute I liked. But when I listened to this recording first time, I fell in love with the Magic Flute so deeply, and I don't know why it is, but I really don't miss any singers. The music, as Olivier said, is so pure. And I want to say something. In the pre-digital era, you were always asked, what 3 records would you take to the desert island with you? And I have to say, this record is one of them, definitely for me. Really.
Well, it's a very nice story because Maki and I had met at the Piano Festival Ruhr, and we were not yet a couple. But I got a phone call from her from Karlsruhe. She was in a music store, and she said, I just found this music. It says, Magic Flute arranged for piano 4 heads from Alexander Zemlinsky. And I said, buy it. take it.
Really?
You know, even Universal wasn't aware they had it. I mean, and for the Mozart year in 2006, we recorded it so that we would have it for that year. And Universal was completely overwhelmed because they had no idea that they actually possessed this. And then, in addition, we, of course, found the creation and the Seasons by Haydn. He also did Lord Sing's Waffenschmied. There's also a four-hand version by Zemlinsky.
Amazing.
Waffenschmied. Incredible.
They did this, he did this for house music. And
Yeah.
it was, Universal needed it. They needed to sell things to the public when the company first came together. And this was at the turn of the century. I told a nice story a couple of weeks ago about this. We performed this in Salzburg, and a musicologist came to me and said that at the time that this was done, this transcription, more houses in the United States had pianos than had indoor plumbing, which I thought was a very, which was why, of course, this music was so important. Anyhow, Olivier, Magic Flute is a very difficult piece to stage. Can you just talk about that a little bit? And I remember so well our adventure with the Magic Flute in 2003. And it was, for me, in a way, completely off the wall. And I loved the way the public just took it in. They loved it.
Yeah, I think the difficulty in staging is it's something that we heard now when you played it. In contrast to Nozze di Figaro, it's such a simplicity in the music. The music is as great as Nozze di Figaro, but it's so much more simple and at the same time genial. And to put this on stage, you need a kind of playfulness. It must be light-hearted on stage. It must not be the conflicts that are in this opera must not be brought on stage heavy metaphysical layers. So it's so rich. It's a story about growing, becoming from child to adult. It's a story about Mozart's idea of happiness. How can happiness be achieved, but not just as a single person, in relationship as two people, but not just that. How can we be happy as a community, as a society? All these ideas are not only in the words, in the libretto, they are in the music. And well, it's difficult to stage, but on the other hand, it's so gratifying because it's so rich. It's such a universe in itself. Racism, we talked a lot about racism in the last days. Now, if you go to the Magic Flute as a child, and many parents bring their children to the Magic Flute, you see how easy it is that even the most sympathetic persons, nice persons like Papageno, they can carry racism in themselves. We all have it, but it's important to make the second step. When you think about Papageno meeting Monostatos for the first time, the one is a man covered over and over in feathers, bird feathers from head to toe. The other is completely black. And they look at each other and they get frightened because they have never seen such a thing and say, this must be the devil. Who? They try to frighten each other. They run off stage, stage empty. This is racism. And now the fantastic lesson that Mozart gives us, Papageno comes back and says, am I stupid? I mean, there are black birds in the world. Why not black people? Hey, come back, let's be friends. So moments like that, you can search in Wagner and Richard Strauss. You will find them, but they will need much more time and it will be much more complicated. And here it's so just directly to us over the centuries. I love it.
I remember when we did the staging, as I remember, we started in the spring. This is always a nice tradition. We rehearsed up till the summer break. And when you came back after the summer break, I think you'd thrown about half of the staging production away, and we were starting over.
Yeah, like many masterworks, so many different approaches to it are possible on stage.
You had too much time
and we
to
tried
think.
several ones.
You had too much time to think.
Before Before we start over again to invent a new staging for the magic flute, we should progress in our program.
I would like to just ask them
Please,
one more
yeah.
question. Would you both each tell us what you're doing right now, where you are, and what you're doing? Christiana, you're singing, but you're doing something completely different at the moment. Tell the public what it is you're doing.
What's this question? I didn't understand it.
We didn't understand it now. It's
Acoustically.
Can you understand me now?
We hear you speaking, but it's very difficult to understand what you say.
That's
It's
what
a
many
kind of
people say.
distorted sound.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
I can hear you, but
you
it's
can't
very
understand me.
distorted.
Then I'll leave the question. It's okay. So,
I think it's a problem with the bandwidth sometime when they still hear us, but it's kind of distorted. That's sometimes a problem of video conferences.
right.
We are very sorry about this, but maybe you can tell us. Do you know what they are preparing?
Well, Christiana is at the moment working as a dramaturg in the Opera and Theater in Biel, and Olivier is also, in addition to his staging and creative work as a stage director, is also teaching at the conservatory in Klagenfurt. And so those are some very
Graz.
in Graz. Sorry, I thought it was in Graz. Thank you. And I will be in Graz 2 or 3 times this next season. So I'm looking. Now you can understand me. It's the same.
Wanted you to say.
It was always like that. He waited till I made a mistake and then he understood me.
Well,
Okay.
nevertheless,
Yes.
even more, we are really grateful that you
Thank
found
you.
the time to join us this evening. It was really very nice to talk and hear your background information about it, and I think we are progressing with the program.
Right.
More of Mozart and more
Yes.
of magical flute.
Right. We're going to play 2 of the very famous arias. Maki will be the Queen of the Night, The Revenge of Hell, and then Zarastro brings everything in quiet by singing about the beautiful and quiet rooms.
Well, talking about the wonderful universe of simplicity, I think this particular last piece is a really great example. And now it's time for simple conversations. Please join us on the YouTube channel, on Skype, on Facebook, whatever you like. And I think we got already a lot of questions from the audiences, and we will start immediately. I would say, Ricardo, I'm curious on how a performer listens to piano music played by somebody else. In your case, when you are listening to each other playing, are you able to just listen, or is it impossible to turn off your performer side? Interesting question.
Well, yes, it's possible. We do turn off a performer's side. Obviously, if we're listening to someone else play a piece that we know very well, then we have other ears when we're hearing it. But we often find a lot to admire and a lot to like. And we both especially enjoy listening to some of the old masters. The other evening we listened to Arthur Rubinstein playing Schubert's B-flat major sonata in a live performance. We've heard Horowitz in a live performance recently, and we were just spellbound. So I guess that's the answer. When I, however, listen to Maki play solo, I have to say, I'm really nervous, because then I'm more a husband than I am a listener. I can't.
And he has no idea. Same like.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great. We have here from Facebook, Murtha saying, wonderful combination of music and image. Greetings from Buenos Aires. And Colin sends you greetings from Edinburgh in Scotland. So it seems your friends are all over the world, just waiting every Friday to tune in. And here we have John from Skype this time. Hugely enjoyable concert, Maki and Dennis. When playing Mozart, is there a tension between the sense of formality and the playfulness? Can one mood over the right and override the another? Well, sorry. What is the correct balance? Formality or playfulness?
Well, I think the spirit of the music is what we all respond to. On the other hand, Mozart was a genius and could put his spirit into formal structures in the way that no one else could. The wonderful scene that we played where the Geharnischten guards are at the door as Pamina and Tamino need to enter, and they're being stopped by guards, and this fugue counterpoint that Mozart wrote, it's so difficult for me to play because I'm completely involved in the composition. It's really extraordinary music. And the thing about Mozart is that it's extraordinary music on so many levels. There's something for every level of enjoyment. What do you say?
We have a second question from John. How do you rate the overture of Don Giovanni? We have really an expert audience today.
Well, it's just a great and wonderful work. It's the overture, of course, segues directly, originally, into the opera itself. So it wasn't written with applause in mind. It was written, and he wanted the audience to get quiet, settle down, and then he could start the story. And he goes right into it. But there are wonderful concert versions of it. It's a great, great, great work.
So we have some comments here from Renate. Es war wunderbar. Herzlichen Dank. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. And Thomas und Brigitte, wir vermissen so sehr die Kultur. Wunderbar, dass ihr uns das hier liefert. Wir freuen euch zu sehen und zu hören. Herzliche Grüße aus Madeira.
Oh, das sind liebe Freunde. Und wir
nice
sind
to be in Madeira.
glücklich, dass Sie dabei sind.
Ja.
Ja.
Great. What kind of music do you play for fun on the piano? I think that was a lot of fun playing
Yeah,
this.
well, we play the magic flute for fun on the piano. You know, it's.
I hope I could. I wish.
I am so busy performing, and she is too, and we're so busy preparing that we just enjoy. I enjoy practicing. When I was a child, I didn't like it so much, but my father was strict and saw to it that I did. But now, at this stage in my life, it's one of my greatest joys is to have a day or a half a day or 2 hours or 4 hours where I can
And
just practice. It's just wonderful.
Especially for this quarantine time, we really enjoy the time, spend the time for practicing. So
Great. There was a special question from Maki, actually. Can you recommend some Japanese composers?
oh, so many beautiful composers are here. The young composer who is living in London, Dai Fujikura, I love his piece very much. And then in Japan, he moved to Japan, I believe. He lived in Germany, but his name is Toshio Hosokawa. He was the student of, he studied with Isan Yun. It's so beautiful composers, and many women composers too. Misato Mochizuki, I love this very much too.
Early in my career, I had the opportunity to work with Joji Yuasa and Yoshiro Irino, two great elder statesmen, composers. One of my absolute favorite composers in Japan now is Joe Hisaishi, who is writing wonderful music in so many different forms. And I've had the opportunity to perform his music and also conduct his music. And I think this is a composer that many people will be very interested in as well.
His piece is very special.
Yeah, you're also performing piano music, I think.
Yeah.
Great.
Very
Okay, we have another question from Richard. Is there a difference between how Zemlinsky writes for the piano and the way Mozart writes for piano?
Well, we have to remember that Zemlinsky is recreating in this score in a marvelous way. It's unbelievable, actually. But in there are all of the orchestra voices and the singers' voices are also there. He finds a way to give the person at home who is playing his favorite opera on the piano with his friend or his wife or his companion or hers, a chance to enjoy the complete score. So that is neither typical of Mozart's piano music nor typical of Zemlinsky's piano music. He was serving a purpose. I think, so the answer to that question would, no, it's not really similar. This music serves a different point, different purpose.
Yeah. Great. Do we have some more questions? Good. More questions, but no more time. We need to progress in our program. And we have to make, please, the announcement for next week. There is a special evening next Friday. And then please also announce the final piece, the farewell for this evening.
Okay. Well, we're calling the program next week New York, New York, because the composers that will be performing had lived or are living in New York City. We're going to have an homage to my friend John Cage, the great American composer who died several years ago and who is not only not forgotten, but has had so much influence on composers who have followed him and who were contemporaries to him. We'll be playing 3 works by John Cage, and I'm very happy also that Maki will perform a work by Elliot Goldenthal, and Laurie Anderson sent over a piano work, which I'm looking forward to playing very much, and also Laurie will be our special guest next week. So it'll be a very nice program, New York, New York. And now we're going to conclude the evening with the opening, a kind of an overture. It's a quiet kind of march to the second act of the Magic Flute.